you're watching Studio24. Everybody knows the Louvre Museum, an established cultural institution, the mecca of art and ancient artifacts. You're also probably aware that the Arts and Culture Development Foundation under the Ministry of Culture of Uzbekistan is building a new partnership with the Louvre. Our guests today are Yannick Lintz, the museum's head of Department of Islamic Arts, and Victorine Majani, project director at the Louvre. Welcome to the studio. Thank you very much for coming. So you are aware the president of Uzbekistan visited France in October of last year. He took a tour of the Louvre, you gave the tour. And also during that visit, the Louvre Museum and the Art and Culture Development Foundation of Uzbekistan signed a memorandum of understanding which captured a broad range of cooperation in the cultural sphere. Could you tell me what was the push for the signing of this document?
Of course, such a document is important to give an official size to this cooperation. It is really what we can call cultural diplomacy. And as soon as you have a high-level memorandum of understanding between two presidents of our two republics, it means that more or less all doors are open. And so, of course, now we started concretely to develop the different projects. And of course, one of them is this big exhibition in 2021 in the Louvre.
This exhibition right now is very big news because you're here talking about what will happen at the exhibition, what will be shown. You're attending conferences and meetings. What are the most important topics that you have been discussing so far at this fairly early stage?
Two things. One, Victorine will tell you about it. Myself, this morning, I discussed a lot about the preparation before the exhibition, which will be a huge campaign of restorations, because we will have national treasures, your national treasures. And to come to Paris, we need to prepare them for transportation and for exhibition. So this is a huge work to develop in the 2.5 years to come.
Yeah, as far as I am concerned, we talk about transport and packing a lot, and how to build specific crates and crate by measure for each work. We talk about transport and about insurance.
Do you find that a lot of the pieces have to be restored before they can be brought over?
You know, there will be, total speaking, in the exhibition in Paris, around 300 pieces. From those 300 pieces, around 220 will come from Uzbekistan. From those 200 pieces, more or less 70% will be restored. But when we say restored, it doesn't mean fundamental restoration. It does mean, as I told you before, preparation for transportation and exhibition.
Have there been a lot of questions from your colleagues from Uzbekistan about these technical issues of setting up an exhibition?
Yeah, we talk a lot about transport, flight transport and packing, and thinking how we are going to make this crate by measure. So maybe it will be made by the French people. We are talking about that, how to make these crates specifically.
This is maybe not necessarily a question that you know, but I'd like to ask. Do you think that the pieces that will be transported to France would be interesting for other museums to exhibit? So once some of this work goes in, do you think it'll be possible for them to travel to other places in the world?
Such a question is to discuss with our partners, our Uzbek partners. You know that usually now in the international world of museums, very often we can see an exhibition in 2 or 3 places. I should say, to be very sincere, we don't think on that until now. We'll see maybe later, but we are focused on the preparation of the first step, which is Louvre 2021, because the project is huge, complex. I could say to my colleagues in the different meetings this morning, such an event you can organize only once in 1 century.
Can you tell us a little bit about what kinds of artifacts will be displayed at the Louvre in 2021?
About the 200 artifacts, of course, you have treasures. I think what will be spectacular for the international public of the Louvre, I mean for the 10 million visitors in the Louvre, will be, I think, the wall paintings. Of course, we will try to show the Varaksha Palace paintings, wall paintings. Here they are shared between the Fine Art Museum and the National Historical Museum. But as you may know, you also have such paintings in Hermitage. So for the first time, we will try to put them all together and to rebuild the Red Room of the Palace of Varaksha. So this, of course, will be spectacular. We also will have this very important tradition of 2nd, 3rd century that are those big sculpture in clay. So this is also the treasures. And for the first time, I think in a museum, we will show the Dalvisin Tepe treasure, the gold pieces that are here in the central bank that I was lucky to see last September. And of course, we will also show those masterpieces, around 60 pieces of the treasures in gold, jewelry, and stones. And of course, many stone sculptures coming from Termez Museum, other wall paintings also from Termez, from Samarkand, of course. For the international public in the Louvre, it will be real first time.
Unique.
Yeah.
Jumping off of that, it's the widely cited fact is that the Louvre is visited by 10 million people each year, which is at the moment about 1/3 of Uzbekistan's population, right? What impact do you think this exhibition will have in such an influential cultural institution?
As Yannick said, that's true that the subject, the topic, the Silk Road, is very famous, and everybody has an imaginary about that. So that's a subject very interesting. But also, Uzbekistan work are completely unique and never exposed in the Louvre. So we hope it will be very European public, Parisian, and maybe American public. We will see.
Do you think that it will push some people to gain a better understanding of the region, maybe break some stereotypes possibly?
I hope so. It's for me as director of the Islamic Art Department, it's one of the main purpose because, you know, in Europe, when we speak about Islamic civilization, for example, everyone means Arabic or Mediterranean situation. And for me, you know better than we, but Uzbekistan's during the Mongol time, for instance, during the Timurids, and even before, was really a center of culture, of science, of economy. And so for me, it's important if this exhibition can better make it, for the people, can make it clearer to see to Asia and to see that this big Islamic civilization from Spain to India was focused on big capitals here in Central Asia. So this is for me very, very important, and it's the first time in the Louvre that we can show something like this.
I was wondering, what's the chronology of the exhibition? Let's say, what's the youngest artifact and what will be the oldest one?
We worked a lot with our Uzbek partners about this chronology, and I think that now it's definitive. It will start around the 2nd century with the Sogdian merchants until the beginning of the Shaibani dynasty, because we want, of course, to include Timur. But our idea is also every exhibition has an introduction, and in the introduction we would like to choose 1 or 2 masterpieces from more ancient time, because one important idea for me is, of course, you start to enter here in the region from Alexander the Great until the Timurid in a sort of international, regional world. But you have a really original culture coming from the nomads, from very old time, and I think it's important that in the introduction of the narrative for the visitors, that they can see 1 or 2 pieces that illustrate this real original Uzbek culture.
The following question, I think, is a bit more on the business side. So the MOU does stipulate other pieces of cooperation. For example, experience exchange among cultural institution staff. So as you're organizing the exhibition, that does happen. Could you tell us a little bit about what kind of things you've been talking about the business, so to speak, of museums? What is the modern museum?
Yes, the word business is maybe not the best one, but of course the Louvre Museum, as you know, is a big museum, and so it's really in this field of how to manage on a modern way a museum. That means that there are 2 or 3 issues. One is about how to develop today with the new tools an inventory, or we can say a database on collection. So of course we have an experience, and we will try to see with our partner here how to transmit this experience. And another one is about fundraising, because of course the Louvre is a national public museum, but now around 60% of our budget comes from fundraising. And so I know that it's also a project here to see how to organize this fundraising to develop the museums.
Aside from the exhibition, what else is in the works between the Louvre and the Arts and Culture Development Foundation?
So we are really in the beginning of the process, because as you said before, the agreement was signed a few months ago, 5 months ago. So of course the exhibition is the main part of it, but we started to discuss with the Foundation for Art and Culture Development about how to help you on new management for collections. It means how to introduce databases, but also what is now important in a modern museum, it's all the way you create new narratives for the public. Because your museums are very nice museums, I should say, compared to other countries. I can go in this Islamic world. But of course, the organization, the design, the narratives was built sometimes in the 60s, in the 70s. So now the young generation need a narrative and approach in link with what they are. And so, of course, we had the opportunity in the Louvre to progress in such thinkings and projects. And we would like to share with here the Uzbek museums to see how we could give them some experiences about how to do modern museums.
And how is it working with the foundation? I mean, they're a fairly influential institution here, but I'm wondering, how is it that your experience has actually been? Do you have a positive review for them?
Oh, yes. I think
so nice, so dynamic. It's really a pleasure to work with them.
yes, it's a real partnership. It's not what we can see in other cooperation where sometimes the partner is weak. Here, I think Victorine agrees the partner is modern, active, dynamic, and wants to do things.
And look to the future.
Yes.
Thank you for coming here and doing this interview. I think a lot of people in Uzbekistan are very excited that we'll be sharing our cultural heritage with so many people abroad. And I look forward to hearing once again when you come back about how the work is progressing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're watching the interview program Studio 24. Be well, take care of yourselves, have a good day.